People are fleeing Melbourne. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because this is an interesting article that I thought we'd have a look at on news.com.au. People, well, they're fleeing Melbourne. Now, to all the Melbourne viewers, what's taking you that long? I can't say I'm surprised. I think anyone liberty-focused or who appreciates level of freedom will probably be looking at relocating out of the state. I think the lockdowns, the extended lockdowns, have left a sour taste in many people's mouths, particularly compared to what happened in South Australia. So relocation of the nation is expected to spike next month. The pandemic has changed the way Australians look at where they live and work, and there's one major city people want to leave. Is this like in the States where everyone is leaving California? Is everyone leaving the Greens Melbourne? So, they were once the city's people would move to for work, but the pandemic has made things look dramatically different now. While people have anecdotally shared stories of people moving from Melbourne after Victoria's harsh lockdown restrictions, new data shows just how true that is. But Melburnians don't want to move to Sydney either, with the city being snubbed for Brisbane. Coming to Brisbane. Good on you, guys. Drive up our property prices. Well, Brisbane is a lovely city. It really is. We've got a lot of amenity here, and you can pretty much fly anywhere in the world now from Brisbane Airport. It's changed. South Australians are also heading to the Sunshine State, according to Moveval, a national online removalist booking platform. Now, I'm imagining this is their paid piece. Real estate watchers have already detected an upswing in online searches. Again, it's always with the online searches, but I guess that's data, for homes in regional towns. Now it has been confirmed prices are shooting up in places like Geelong and Dubbo, just as they go down in Melbourne and Sydney. So people are getting out of the big cities and moving to regional towns, or they're coming up here to Brizzy. But to ease financial pressure from December 1, the Australian government is offering grants of up to $9,000 for job seekers moving within Australia for work. $9,000. $9,000. So you could sell up in Melbourne, get a pretty penny still probably for your house, move to Queensland, get $9,000 to pay for that to help you offset that, and then buy a house and then still have money sitting aside. The new grants will also allow city-to-city moves, but with $3,000 relocation assistance, and previous wait times of 12 months for assistance have been dropped as part of broader efforts to get Australia moving and into employment after the pandemic recession. So, did these exist before? I didn't even realise. James Morrell, chief executive at Moveval, said this would expedite the boom in Australians relocating, having already seen a 52% rise in inquiries about moving interstate since the pandemic started. Our data suggests that these new government incentives will accelerate the relocation of the nation that we've been seeing since the pandemic hit, he said. Now, the only thing I ask is if you move from Victoria to Queensland, you realise that the people you voted in Victoria, the way you voted in, led to the problems in your state. So you will help us get out our government here in state and get a decent one. Well, we don't really have much choices, but still, there's hope. There's hope. Latest ABS stats are also showing net losses in migration to Sydney and Melbourne for the June quarter of 2020. Searches and bookings for relocation services on our site show there is unprecedented demand to swap cities. So here's the thing. What's going to happen in Sydney and Melbourne for property? What does this mean for the property prices in those two cities? They're going to have to take a hit, aren't they? Just can't keep going. You can't have this constant argument that property is going skyrocketing to the moon when we're seeing here people are leaving these cities. And it may ease the property prices, and we'll bring them up. We can see here, you can see here, look at Sydney and Melbourne, the growth that they've had. And look at Brisbane with a brown colour there. We're still in the bottom three. So it's Brisbane, Darwin, and then Perth. So Brisbane's still relatively affordable. I mean, property prices have gone up since I bought. I thought property prices were insane when we went looking, and yet they've gone up since then. So, I mean, that just shows you, doesn't it, how expensive these things are. Comparing Movell's inquiries from people moving interstate in the April-June quarter to July-September quarter, they found Brisbane and Perth residents were the most content to stay put. Well, can the Perthies, can they even leave? Unsurprisingly, very few people want to move to Melbourne. There you go. What's going to happen to Dictator Dan if he loses all his tax cattle? What's he going to do? Don't worry, they'll probably implement a wealth tax like in California, where they still tax you for 10 years after you leave the state. Americans are nuts with the things they invent. It really is. Even some Sydney-siders are leaving the city, with a 21% jump in searches for moving to Brisbane since the pandemic hit. There was a 20% hike in inquiries from Melburnians wanting to move to Adelaide. Overall, Melburnians have made up 42% of total moving out searches on Movell since August. The company has helped Melbourne families who have packed up everything and moved to Brisbane, where they are undergoing quarantine and bought a house, without even seeing it, to start a new life or for work opportunities. We actually, because I grew up in Victoria, my parents moved to, well, they bought a house in Coldstream, right on the edge of a local call to the city. That's why my father picked it. It's you know, there's cows and paddocks around there. And they sold up because we would go to Queensland for holiday 2 to 3 times a year. They bought a place up at Noosa. And we ended up settling on the Gold Coast when they moved up here. And it was interesting, actually, the trip, because my father drove and my mother drove as well, and she wasn't used to driving long distances. And we ended up staying in Mo, my mother and I, because she'd lost track of my father and she had all the police looking for him. No one could find him. So it took like 2 or 3 weeks before she tracked him down. Oh, she was angry. She was really angry. They were meant to meet up somewhere and he just kept powering on. Powering on. Since the pandemic hit, Aussies have flocked to Brisbane, the Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast, with a 96% rise in searches in... Well, no, okay, here's the thing. They haven't flocked to these areas yet. Search results for people looking to move to these areas have increased. If one person does a search for Gold Coast, Brisbane, and Sunshine Coast, that's still only one instance of a search, and that doesn't actually mean that people are looking to move there. Or people actually have moved there. We'll have to see. We'll know within, what, the next 6 to 12 months if there's been another demographic shift, if people have moved. When we came up to Queensland, there was a whole lot of Victorians that came up in the early 90s. Right around the recession Australia had to have. So, because I mean, if you're gonna be in financial, well, earning reduced, you might as well do it in warm weather. So, there's been almost double the growth in quote requests for southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales areas, including Toowoomba, Ballina, Lismore and Byron Bay. I don't mind Toowoomba. I mean, these are all lovely areas, particularly the Northern Rivers area in New South Wales. I mean, there you go. That's Victoria. That's the beach. And the beaches, I mean, Victorian beaches are a bit of a joke, guys. I remember when I was in Adelaide, we went to the beach with some friends. I went there and I'm asking, what is this? This is a lake, isn't it? Where are the waves? Where are the waves? What's going on? Because I'm used to the Gold Coast. You kind of get spoiled. You know, and still, you know, we probably as a kid, when we lived in Victoria, we went to the beach more when we travelled up here a few times a year compared to living here. That's just how it is. Meanwhile, Cairns, Townsville and other North Queensland regions are seeing similar spikes. Moving to areas like Newcastle were up 140%. Despite hard border closures, there have been a 91% increase in inquiries for people moving to WA in the September quarter compared to the June quarter. Mr. Morrill said he believed the government assistance would encourage people's friends to move as well. We've already seen a number of people leaving behind higher costs of living, locations for a simpler and more affordable lifestyle in another area, he said. The funds can be used to cover costs such as removalists, temporary accommodation and travel. The amount of bedrooms and belongings Australians are looking to move based on searches on the Movell website suggests that families were the first to relocate from May to July. From August to September, And especially since mandatory hotel quarantine costs were introduced, Movale has seen smaller amounts of items being moved, indicating more individuals or couples moving. There's also been a higher than anticipated spike in females looking to move interstate, apart from inquiries to move to Perth, where more males are searching for their next address. So what do you think, everyone? What do you think? So it looks like people are abandoning, the glorious utopias of Melbourne and Sydney, and maybe heading up here to good old sunny Queensland in Brisbane, home of Bluey. What do you reckon? Are you living in Melbourne? Are you thinking of getting out of that state? Or have you already made plans? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from Teespring or the pocket squares you see behind me from our very own blog. You can support us using PayPal or GoldPass. Take care everyone, have a great day, and I will see you all in the next episode.